John Bratby was a bit of a superstar painter from the 1950s. He was in with a group called the Kitchen Sink Painters. Now, kitchen sink painting and kitchen sink drama was coined from a term that David Sylvester, a famous art critic from the 1950s, used in a 1954 review of a John Bratby exhibition. And by the late 50s, early 60s, Britain was ready for a change. We were looking forward, architecture was changing, fashion was changing. Gone was the drabness of post-war Britain in the 1950s. A new era was ushering in, and Bratby and the kitchen sink painters were out. It makes me think of what I think is the 1950s post-war period. There's large numb taps, maybe some soap scum around the sink. Perhaps you've just finished your shift at the factory and you're going to the outside latrine to scrub up. One of my own personal recollections, art recollections, one of my earliest art memories in fact, is visiting Cartwright Hall and seeing a David Hockney painting on the wall, and it's an early 1950s David Hockney. So it's quite drab, it's reminiscent of the kitchen sink painters actually. And around the David Hockney surrounded Victorian nudes. I'd never seen the world depicted in that way before, whereas the paintings that were around it felt very familiar and felt very safe. And as a young child, that shocked me. For me, it was about not being able to properly place something and about the freedom of somebody else going forward and placing something like that, enabling you a type of freedom, a space, an area within your life to go ahead and do something that doesn't quite fit. This is a painting from the Camden Collection by Jean Cooke. Jean Cooke was married to John Bratby for about 20 years. The self-portrait's called The Italian Straw Hat. And as we can see, she's there in a hat that's quite chunkily painted. Paint handling's really quite nice. And what looks like, I think, is sunburnt nose. In my opinion, Jean Cooke's work is equal to John Bratby's, if not better. Some of her portraits, I think, are absolutely superb, and her whole oeuvre, her portraits of her family, are superb. She's, if not better, artist than John Bratby. Putting these two paintings together, these two works from the collection, because of the difficulties within their personal lives and their marriage, feels a little bit awkward, perhaps. I was slightly remiss about putting these two pieces out there and together. Both of the artists have passed away now. But if anything, it's an opportunity to reevaluate Jean Cooke and reevaluate John Bratby. View your own art collection at camden.gov.uk/art collection.